Good morning, everybody. You're all very welcome to today's virtual information session entitled Paying Your Tuition and Fees. It's going to be a really productive session, hearing from a colleague in the Bursar office, covering everything you need to know about tuition payments, deadlines, etc. So a lot of really important information today. My name is Anthony Cahill. I'm a program coordinator with Intercultural Programs, or ICP for short. And before we get started, I'd just like to review a little bit of logistical information. So first off, you can see and hear us, but we cannot see you and we cannot hear you. We can tell that you're here and you'll be able to submit questions into the Q&A, into the chat whenever that opens up. But for now, we cannot see any of our attendees. So again, like I said, at the end of this presentation, there will be an open Q&A session, and you can submit any questions you have in the question box at the top of your screen. This event is being recorded and will be posted within 48 hours to our YouTube channel. We'll give you a link to that after the session. And then lastly, closed captioning is available in multiple languages. So up at the top, you'll see on the top of the screen, 3 dots. You can click on that and turn on live captions. And there are some language options available other than English. So with that being said, I will introduce our Director of Global Engagement, Leticia Zamaripa, who will give a brief introduction from Intercultural Programs. Thanks.
Thank you, Anthony. Hello, and thank you all for being here with us for our second virtual information session. We hope that you will really enjoy the session. Congratulations on your decision to join us at UT Dallas. Today, as Anthony mentioned, we have a very important session. We know that you have made a very important investment in your education, or you are about to do it. And we would like to make you, to help you make informed decisions. And this is the reason why we offer this information session. We want to make sure that you understand the processes, the implications, and everything that you are about to start at UT Dallas. Before we start, our guests will cover a lot of information, but this is just a friendly reminder or informative for some of you that might not have this information. As a first semester student, it is very important for you to know that you cannot register classes by yourself. You have to contact your academic advisor, depending on what you will be studying. And it is not, you cannot pay until you register for classes. And I wanted to make this reminder just because, as you will be hearing the presentation, this information is relevant. You cannot at this point know exactly how much your tuition and fees are going to be until you register for classes. And of course, our guests will go much more in depth concerning this. So to start the session, I would like to introduce Patrick Thomas Cruz. He is a student financial accountant too at the Bursar office. For your information, the Bursar office is the name of the office that is responsible for all the assessment and collection of tuition and fees. So welcome and thank you very much, Patrick.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited. All right, and are we ready to go ahead and get started?
Yes, please. Thank you very much.
All righty. All right, and so if we can go ahead and get to that first slide. That one looks like it's blank, actually. There we go. All righty. So yeah, so first start off, we're just going to go over a couple of our basic office functions that the Bursar actually does. So starting off, as mentioned, we do assess, bill, and collect on all tuition and fees that you are charged at UT Dallas. So next, also, we collect your on-campus housing charges. So an important thing about that is that while we do collect on those fees, we do not directly charge those housing charges. We are only going to collect on the fees for things that you are actually going to be paying for or electing to pay for, such as housing and meal plan. We also collect on those meal plan charges as well, and answer any basic questions that you might have about the billing statement you receive. We do bill you each semester, and we send out reminders throughout the semester as well. So if there are ever any questions once you get a billing statement about anything on that statement, any item, we can answer a question about it. We also implement our payment and refund schedule. So the important thing about that is that payment and refund schedule, that is going to be posted on the academic calendar online each semester. We will always have that available to students. It has all your important payment deadline, dates, withdrawal dates, and refund dates. There's a lot of good information on that. We will have that posted each semester with that payment schedule and refund schedule. Then we maintain our online services through EasyPay. EasyPay is essentially your payment portal. That's where you're going to actually log in and make your payments for your tuition fees each semester. So anytime you need to make a payment, you'll log into EasyPay with your net ID and then that password that's associated with that ID to make your individual payment. And then in the event that maybe you've made an overpayment, or let's say you've received a scholarship and maybe you have an excess amount of money on your account now and you're looking to get a refund. We also process those refunds in the event that you have an overpayment or expecting some form of money back. So go ahead and go. There you go. And next slide. All right, so tuition at UT Dallas. So UT Dallas uses tuition plans as opposed to a per credit hour rate. So what that means is we're not charging you necessarily per each hour that you're enrolled in. We have two specific tuition plans that are available for you to choose from, and that amount will be based on the total number of credit hours you're enrolled in for the semester versus individual course that we're charging you. All new incoming students, whether you're a transfer, freshman, have the opportunity to choose from the two tuition rates that we do offer. It is a one-time choice that's available the first semester that you're admitted to UT Dallas. So what that means is while you're going to get two choices in terms of a tuition plan, after you've made that choice, you cannot change it after the fact. You will be stuck with that specific tuition plan for your remainder at UT Dallas. Admitted students will get an email with instructions on how to actually submit that tuition plan. You'll get instructions on where you need to go within your UTD Student Center to actually go and choose that. If you do not choose it, we will default you into our variable rate, and I'll get a little bit more into that as we go on. All right. And so, as I mentioned, we do have the two types of tuition rates here. You have one that's going to be called your guaranteed rate. So there's going to be two major differences between these. Your guaranteed rate is going to lock in that tuition rate. Whatever the rate is at that time that you pick guaranteed, you keep that rate for 4 consecutive years. So what this means is, let's say, for instance, when you join UT Dallas in spring 2023, you're going to the guaranteed tuition plan, and for 12 hours and above, you're looking at $7,000, for instance. That amount will not change for 4 years. After 4 years, you'll go into the next guaranteed tuition plan. So you are locked into whatever rate the guaranteed rate is if you choose that specific plan once you join UT Dallas, and then it cannot be changed. You are only charged for the terms you're registered for, so that's going to stay consistent between the two plans. The difference between the guaranteed and the variable is that your variable, though, is going to be subject to change each year. So while the guaranteed plan, you may have perhaps the peace of mind knowing how much you're going to be paying each semester for 4 consecutive years. The variable comes with a little bit of uncertainty and that you may not know how much it's going to increase yearly. Now, one of the advantages right now, though, of our variable rate is that there is about $1,000 difference between variable and your guaranteed. So that is a huge difference in savings at the moment, but you have to remember the variable rate is subject to change each academic year, which means it can change this upcoming fall semester and you may pay more or around the same even possibly that you would be paying in the spring. It all depends on how much that rate actually changes in the fall and what our Board of Regents decides in terms of an increase. But those rates are usually going to be lower than guaranteed rate. When you're looking at the two and you're trying to make a decision between your variable and your guaranteed rate, the best way to look at it is to think about how much time you think you're going to be at UT Dallas and how long it's going to take you to complete that program. If you're only going to be here for, let's say, maybe 2 years and you're going to have enough credits to graduate by then it's possible that the variable rate may be more beneficial to you in the long run because there'll be a savings. Maybe you don't need to be paying more on the guaranteed rate for only 2 years versus guaranteed rate. Maybe you're looking to matriculate into a new program afterwards. That way, you know, you'll still be paying the same amount. Even if you do graduate in 2 years, you'll still carry that guaranteed rate with you. There's a lot of different factors that are involved with that. It really depends on how long you think you're going to be here, your program requirements, things like that. We do have an example of this tuition rate, I believe, on the next slide, and we'll look at that in just a second. And then on the bottom here, you can see that we do have a link where you can actually compare both of them, and that'll kind of help you make maybe a little bit of a better decision on what your finances might look like, depending on how long you think you're going to be in the program. If you don't choose a tuition plan by January 2nd, you will be defaulted into the variable plan, which is the one that's subject to change yearly. So as long as you pick by January 2nd, you can still choose guaranteed. Otherwise, you won't have a choice at that point after that date. We will just put you in that variable rate. All right. All right, and so this is going to be an example of our variable tuition rate. This is going to be found online on our website as well. So you can definitely feel free to go ahead and compare that with our guaranteed. What I'm going to point out on this slide, though, is that we do break down the rates by resident and non-resident. So what we mean by that is by non-resident, we're talking about this is anyone who is not a resident of Texas. So whether you are considered international student or a U.S. citizen who doesn't live in Texas, you're going to fall under non-resident. So it's not really necessarily a tuition that's charged for international students. It's for anyone who is not a Texas resident. We like to make that distinction just so it's clear that in terms of what you're being charged the same as anyone else who would not normally be already in Texas attending classes. All right. All right, and so I did want to talk about a couple of additional charges. This was not originally in the presentation, but these were a couple of things that were maybe a little bit more important to touch on that I felt needed to be mentioned. So when we talk about tuition, that's usually what most people are thinking are going to be the bulk of their charges, but to get a better idea of what all your possible charges are, we're going to talk about some of these additional charges that you might experience while you're at UT Dallas. So first one is very likely that you are going to have, and that's going to be supplemental designated tuition. So what this is these are additional per semester credit hour fees that are assessed by the individual academic departments here at UT Dallas. These fees are assessed by the departments, and they're to defray the costs of associated with instructing in those particular schools. So these fees go directly to those schools, and while they're separate from your actual tuition, they are charged on the same bill. So what you're looking at here is you'll have a list of each school. You're going to have the Naveen Jindal School of Management, Eric Johnson School of Engineering and Computer Science, Arts, Technology, and Emerging Communication, And then you have your School of Economic, Political, and Policy Sciences and Public Affairs, as well as Behavioral and Brain Sciences. A lot of those are going to have semester per credit hour fees. So what that means is whatever the rate is right here per credit hour, however many hours you enroll in a course under that school, you'll be charged that additional per credit hour depending on how many hours you're taking. All right. All right, so next one, this is a big one. So student insurance, all international students that are holding an F1, F2, J1 or J2 non-immigrant visa are required to have approved health insurance while you are in a UT system institution. This insurance requirement does apply to you if you are not considered a US citizen, US permanent resident, asylee, refugee, undocumented alien. If you do have your own student insurance, you are welcome to provide that to the Student Health Center. The Student Health Center does have waivers for international students who can meet a certain eligibility criteria and prove that they have comparable insurance coverage that will meet the UT system requirements. Pretty much what that means is if you have insurance already and you're not wanting to sign up for this insurance that's offered by UT Dallas, go ahead and contact the Student Health Center. Let them know what your insurance is, and they can let you know if that coverage is going to be considered equivalent or not. If it is, then that's one less charge that you may experience overall while you're here. All right, and then these last two here are going to be your housing and meal plan. So as I mentioned earlier, our office does also collect on those as well. Meal plan prices do change usually each academic year. Right now you can see the current prices for the different types of plans that are offered. You can log in online and actually choose your meal plan if you wish to do so. It's not required to actually have a meal plan. These are just a cost-effective way for students to actually get food on campus in a more convenient way. Same as housing as well. I know most of the time it's unlikely for university housing transferring to spring to maybe get a place right away. They do occasionally have vacancies during mid-semester, so it doesn't hurt to reach out to that housing office if you are looking to be located in Texas and want to stay on campus. I would definitely reach out to them if you are looking for on-campus housing. They can even make recommendations for off-campus housing as well. So definitely just reach out to them if you are looking for that. In the event that you do sign up for a meal plan or housing on campus, we will still collect those fees on their behalf. All right, so in terms of tuition estimates and statements, so we know this is important because you need to know what you're going to be paying, especially you need to prove that you're also able to pay that amount as well upon entry into the US. So if you are looking for an estimate or a statement, normally tuition calculation takes place 6 to 8 weeks prior to a new term starting. That just means that's when we actually will have that, we have that all set up and ready to go for students to get their statements. So for an actual tuition statement, current admitted students, you can get a statement of your tuition fees by going onto your Orion self-service portal. So when you actually log into Orion, what you need to do is you'll have to go to your UTD Student Center. And the reason I'm saying Student Center is whenever you apply to UTD, the first screen you usually get in Orion is going to be called your Applicant Center. This is going to be separate still than your Student Center. Your Student Center is going to have tabs for not only the Bursar office, it's also going to have tabs for financial aid and other resources that you might need. So from there, you would go to your Student Center. You'll have a little square that'll say Bursar account on it, and you'll click on that, and there'll be a link for tuition estimate. At this point, if you've already chosen also your plan, whether it's guaranteed or variable, it can take into account that plan, and that estimate should be pretty accurate to what your actual charges will be based on what tuition plan you're on and the individual school as well that you are going to be attending within UT Dallas. Billing statements. So this is your actual statement or a bill with your charges on it. This is available after you've actually registered into your classes. So you're not going to be able to see any sort of charge for your tuition until those classes are actually going to be enrolled and they've been registered. Once your classes are registered, then we will turn that into a tuition charge and make it available for you to actually view. And that is also done through your UTD Student Center. So once again, you would go to your Student Center after you've been enrolled in your classes, go to your Bursar account, and then click on Account Statement. The account statement is going to show you all your charges, including your housing, meal plan, supplemental fees, and it's going to break it all down on that account statement. If you're receiving any financial aid as well, that will also be viewable on the statement, and it'll show whether or not it's actually been deducted from those charges. So tuition estimates and your statements, once you've actually enrolled in classes, those are both available in your UTD Student Center. And that's when you log into Orion. That's going to be super important to remember to always look for that Bursar tile when you're looking for anything regarding your tuition estimates or your bill. Always go there. Those are always going to be there each semester. Go ahead. All right, and tuition insurance. This is something that is relatively new for UT Dallas. So we began to partner with a company called GradGuard in spring 2022, so this past spring. And pretty much we are able now to offer insurance in the event that there maybe is an emergency going on in your family, something out of your control perhaps, and you have to withdraw for the semester. This is an option that you have available to you. It's extra, you don't need to pay for it, you don't need to sign up for it, it is completely optional, but it can potentially protect your investment in your courses without any sort of penalty if you need to withdraw for a family emergency. I believe the rate is about $111, and that covers up to $10,000 in actual tuition and fees per semester. So it's not a bad deal, especially with the cost, the higher costs for international and out-of-state students. It is something you may want to look into. It is optional once again. You have till January 16th to actually sign up for this tuition insurance. If you need help actually signing up for the insurance itself, you do just log into the Easy Pay portal, and there will be instructions on how you can actually sign up for that. Once again, though, it is optional. It is a great way, though, to potentially protect your money, your investment in your classes, especially if for any reason you may not be able to finish them in a semester. All right, so scholarship recipients, this is important to mention. So if you are receiving any sort of scholarship, they do get applied directly to your account. Both the Bursar office and financial aid do work with the scholarships. We will be the ones that will usually get those posted to your account, especially if there's any sort of waiver applied with that as well. So what we're going to talk about with these scholarships is, some of you may know this, some of you may not. A scholarship of $1,000 or more can qualify a student for the resident tuition rate for an entire academic year. What this means is that if you are receiving a $1,000 scholarship, whether it's from your academic department, from UT Dallas, this is going to make you eligible for a reduction in your tuition and fees for that academic year. And so what happens is that will appear as a separate credit on your account statement. So I'm going to give you an example of this. Let's say you're receiving a $1,000 scholarship from UT Dallas. When you go to your account statement, you're going to see that your out-of-state tuition is going to be listed on your account statement. Let's say, for example, your tuition is $10,000, and that is the out-of-state tuition rate. You will see a credit on the account that will be listed as a waiver. It'll be listed with a minus in front of it, showing a negative. It'll be listed as a dollar amount subtracted from that $10,000 to bring it down to the in-state tuition price. So a lot of times when people are thinking they're going to get the equivalent of the in-state tuition from a scholarship, they're thinking the price is just going to be reduced. But instead, on your account statement, what we're doing is we're still charging you the out-of-state dollar amount. We're just adding that waiver on there as a credit back to the account, so that way it equals the in-state resident tuition rate. All scholarship recipients do receive an extended payment deadline each semester. Pretty much what that means is you just get a little bit more time to actually pay your tuition fees, especially if you're waiting for that scholarship to be posted onto your account. Financial aid is usually good about getting all their aid on before a semester starts, but just in case, you do usually get a little bit more time to actually pay your tuition fees in the event that you are waiting for a scholarship of any sort. Scholarship recipients should check Easy Pay just to verify that the scholarship is actually posted to your account prior to any payment deadline. It's really important. If you're expecting a scholarship to be posted and we are getting to a payment deadline, you want to make sure it's posted at that time. Otherwise, you may need to make a payment or enroll in some form of payment plan while you're waiting for the scholarship to be posted. If it's not posted by our payment deadline, that's no big deal. That just means you're waiting for it to be posted. You may just need to make payment arrangements in the meantime until we actually have that on the account. So I would just say check with the department as well. That's the last thing I'll say about that with scholarship recipients. Academic departments are really good about coordinating when to get those waivers on the account and verifying who is eligible for a waiver or a scholarship. Those things do move pretty quickly, but if you're not sure, always check with the department. And then if we're getting up to a payment deadline, just make sure that you have arrangements made while you're waiting for that scholarship to be posted. All right, and our payment and refund calendar. So once again, I know I mentioned this before, but we do list this payment and refund calendar each semester online. And this is going to have your registration dates in addition to your refund dates as well. All students are going to be responsible for reviewing this payment and refund calendar each semester. We don't send these out, but they are readily available each semester, and we even keep old ones available past that time as well, just for reference. But they do have your estimated dates for when billing statements each semester are expected to come out. Once again, your important deadlines are all going to be listed on there. There's also the late payment fees in the event that you miss a deadline, but we know y'all won't. And then your actual payment plan options and due dates, those are going to be on there as well. So refund schedule for dropping or withdrawing will be posted, and then your late payment fees, all those things are on there. Registration payment deadline, we do have these on this PowerPoint here. Your regular registration payment deadline is going to be January 12th. This deadline is only for students that are not going to be receiving any type of financial aid from the university. So this would be the deadline that you're wanting to adhere to if you're not expecting a scholarship or any form of additional payment on your behalf. The January 26th deadline, this is your financial aid recipient deadline. This is if you are expecting any form of financial aid, scholarship, things like that. You want to verify that you do have the extension each semester on your account, that you are eligible each semester that you are receiving a scholarship. So what I mean by that is, as we know, especially with those $1,000 scholarships, since they are good for an academic year, normally after that academic year, you will go back to your out-of-state or non-resident tuition charges unless you are continually receiving the scholarship. If the scholarship is only good for a year, that waiver and that extension are only going to be applicable for that year as well. So you really want to make sure that you are getting an extension if you are receiving some form of scholarship. Best way to do that is when you go to your UTD Student Center. So I mentioned this a couple of times. That's where you're going to go for a lot of things. It's true. You want to go to your UTD Student Center. You'll go to your Bursar tile that is located there. On the Bursar tile, we will actually list what your payment due date is on that Bursar tile. It will be on there once you've actually been billed for the semester. And if we see that you are receiving some form of scholarship, you should have that financial aid extension already on your account. If you don't, and it says your payment's due January 12th, that's when you need to make sure to go ahead and reach out either to the academic department to see what the status is of your scholarship being sent over, or even to financial aid to see if maybe the hold should be on there and there was a mistake made. You'll always want to kind of coordinate between the departments and keep up with it just in case. But first line of reference will always be going to your student center. We're going to list your due date on there for you. Alrighty, and then Easy Pay. So I mentioned this earlier. This is where you will actually go ahead and log in to make your payment each semester. View your billing statement. Billing statements can be separate from your account statement that I mentioned earlier. So as I said, your account statement is going to be very similar. The account statement is what you find in UTD Student Center in your Bursar tile. The billing statement will be on Easy Pay. This will also have your payment due dates next to it, and it's going to have a little bit more of a breakdown on what your actual tuition and fees are paying towards versus the account statement where we'll just show your charges for the semester. Additionally, in Easy Pay, this is where you would go to set up what's called a direct deposit account. This is, again, in the event that maybe you've made an overpayment or maybe you've already paid your tuition fees for the semester and you're still receiving a scholarship or additional money. In this instance, you're looking at a refund if you're going to have an overpayment on your account. You're going to want to have a direct deposit set up. Otherwise, what ends up happening is we would have to send out a check by mail to whatever address is on file. And so if your address is not going to be located in the US, that's going to be quite difficult, and there would not be a guarantee that that check might make it. Direct deposit is going to be more of a for sure instance that you're going to receive those funds back to your account. You can pick any bank account you want with the direct deposit. If you are eligible for any sort of refund for any reason, we will put it directly in the account that you specify through Easy Pay. This next one here that says add an authorized user. So what this means is when you are adding an authorized user to your account, you are pretty much just setting up another login for your parent to access the Easy Pay. When you access Easy Pay as a student, you're logging with your NetID and password that you created, that you log into Orion to view your student center and all those things. Adding an authorized user gives your parent their own additional login, so that way they can also view your bill and make payment on your behalf. It's a big feature. A lot of parents always ask about that. We do not recommend sharing your NetID and password with your parent. Add them as an authorized user through Easy Pay. That way they can still access your statement and make your payment for you if they need to. This is also where you're going to actually set up an installment plan. So if you're looking to break up your payments into separate payments throughout the semester, you would also go in Easy Pay to go ahead and do this. Alrighty, and payment methods. So through Easy Pay, you can use a credit card. There is going to be a 1.9% convenience fee. In terms of cards that we do accept, we accept MasterCard, American Express, and Discover. We do not accept Visa for tuition payments. Travel cards are going to be treated as a credit card as well, so it'll still be subject to the 1.9% convenience fee. If you don't want to deal with a convenience fee at all, you can do an electronic check. You would need a US bank account and have access to that routing number on the bank account, as you would have to put that into Easy Pay first, so that way you can make the payment and draw the funds directly from the account. Whenever you're drawing your funds directly from a bank account through eCheck, there's a no fee, so it's always going to be probably a little bit more convenient than having to use a credit card. You can make in-person payments as well by dropping them off at our drop box on the second floor of the Student Services building. So if you were looking to drop off a check, money order, demand draft, things like that, you could drop them off in the drop box. If you don't wish to do that, you can also still mail them to our address that's listed below. We would ask that if you're going to mail it, to allow 3 weeks for the payment to be received and posted to your account. Just in the event, we would need a little extra processing time, especially with how unreliable the mail can be sometimes. Alrighty, next slide. Alrighty, and international wire. So UT Dallas is partnered with a company called Flywire for international payments. So through this partnership, we're able to verify that a payment is being made for the specific student. There's no additional fees also associated with payment through Flywire. So if you were wanting to make a payment from a foreign banking institution, you can definitely do so without that extra fee as well by using Flywire. Flywire, you will need to actually log into Galaxy Orion using your NetID and password. You would go ahead and go to your UTD Student Center, click on that Bursar account tile, payment options, and there is going to be a link for Flywire, and it'll actually take you to their website, and that's going to open up a new window or a prompt where you'll actually have to sign in and then put in your payment details to begin processing that payment. In the event that you are unable to procure your funds by January 12th, which once again, that is going to be your regular payment deadline, the deadline if you are not receiving any financial aid or scholarship. If you are not able to get your funds by January 12th, you may want to consider taking out what's called a short-term loan option in Galaxy as a way to extend your payment deadline. Short-term loan option is separate from an installment plan, but it will give you more time in the long run to actually make a payment for spring 2023 if you're not able to by the January 12th date. All right, and so our payment plan options. So as I just mentioned, short-term loan. The short-term loan is a payment plan that it only covers tuition and course-related fees. So what this means is if you have housing, student insurance, and a meal plan, these are not going to be covered by your short-term loan. If you only have tuition and course-related fees that are going to be on your account, what you're going to want to have to do is take out the short-term loan if you're not able to make a payment, for instance, by the January 12th date. Short-term loan, essentially, as it says, it's going to extend your payment due date by about 60 days after our census date. Our census date is when we're actually reporting our enrollment to the state of Texas. This is going to push your payment due date back to about March 8th. So let's say we get to January 12th and you are looking to make a Flywire payment, or you're not sure yet and you don't have the funds yet, and it's January 12th and your payment's due. You could go into your UTD Student Center, click on your Bursar tile, go to the short-term loan, and you can enroll in the short-term loan. As soon as you click a submit button on there, the short-term loan is in effect and your due date is automatically going to be pushed to that March 8th date. The only thing with this is there is a 1.25% origination fee. So however much your entire amount is of that tuition fee on your account, it's going to take 1.25% of that. It's going to add it on top of your total balance. That amount is not due up front though. You would still have till March 8th to pay the origination fee, and whatever tuition fee is still on your account by that time. So that might be a convenient option if you are not able to procure funds by January 12th. Other option that we do have available is your traditional payment plan, or as we call it, an installment plan. The installment plan, you're going to go into Easy Pay to actually enroll in the installment plan. Good thing about the installment plan is this does cover your tuition, fees, housing, meal plan, and your student insurance. So this might be a better option if you have all those charges, and maybe you can't pay all that at once either. If you go and set up the installment plan through Easy Pay, there is a $25 setup fee, and then your 4 payments are going to actually be split throughout the semester. The way it'll work is your first payment is going to be counted as the first payment essentially. You'll have 3 more payments that are then going to be due subsequently. So for instance, you're enrolling in the installment plan. Your $25 and the 25%, or your first payment of your tuition, fees, housing, meal plan, all that will be due up front once you enroll in this installment plan. After that, the next 25%, or your second installment, is going to be due February 8th. Then you'll have another one March 8th, and then your 4th installment will be due by April 5th. Now, if you cannot make the final payment by that date, there may be some sort of penalty fee applied to your account, but we're not going to drop you from classes or anything like that. You'll still remain enrolled. Past that point, you'll just want to make sure then that you have all your fees paid by the end of the semester, so that way you can continue to enroll at UTD for the following semester. So your installment plan is going to be more of your traditional payment plan, whereas a short-term loan is going to be more of a, I need more time. It's going to give you more time to make that payment. Last thing I will mention about the installment plan is if you are receiving a scholarship and a waiver that goes with that, when you go to enroll in the installment plan, we are setting up your plan based on all your charges. But if you're receiving a scholarship where it's going to reduce the charges, that installment plan will take into effect anything that's already posted to the account. So let's say your tuition is $10,000, and then you have a $1,000 scholarship on your account with a waiver. Once you go to enroll in the actual installment plan, you're going to see all those charges are still there on the installment plan because that's the amount you're being charged. Once you actually set up the installment plan and asks you for a first payment, it's going to take into factor any waivers, any scholarships on your account, and it's going to adjust that amount accordingly to take that into account when you go to make the first payment. Alrighty, next slide. All right, so dropping a course or completely withdrawing. So UTD is a state agency, so we must adhere to section 54.006 of the Texas Higher Education Code. This determines what the refund policy is for dropping a course and then completely withdrawing from all your classes for a semester. So they have different types of financial impacts associated with them. Dropping a course could mean you're dropping one or a couple of courses but still staying enrolled. A withdrawal could be completely unenrolling from all your courses from a semester. It kind of just depends on when you're actually dropping the course. So for example here, this is from our academic calendar. If you're dropping a course, but you remain in at least one other session course, whether that's a first 8 weeks, second 8 weeks, etc., you'll get a 100% refund up until these following dates. What that means is when you're looking at your full term session for February 1st, that means if you were enrolled in the full term, all your classes, you're throughout the entire semester. So it's lasting as a whole semester, not just an 8 week, not a second 8 week. You're enrolled for the whole semester. You would have till February 1st to drop a course and still get a refund back for that. Withdrawing, a little bit different. If you are going to completely withdraw and maybe you're deferring even to, let's say, the fall semester, if you are going to be withdrawing from the courses, you need to make sure that you are doing that by Monday, January 16th. That's when classes actually start. So if you're not able to attend classes and you know before the classes are going to start, you want to make sure to withdraw before that time to be eligible for 100% refund on those tuition and fees. Otherwise, as you can see, that amount does go down the more time goes by. Eventually, you would not be eligible for any refund. So if you do not elect for that optional tuition insurance that I mentioned earlier as well, you would need to make sure that you're looking at this calendar to make sure that you're making an informed decision on if you are needing to drop a course or maybe even attend a later semester. You would need to make a decision and use that calendar to do so. It's going to be a really good guide in terms of looking at your finances. If you think maybe you're not going to be able to attend, look at the dates, double check them. You don't want to end up owing money for a class you didn't end up taking. All right, and if your account has been paid in excess, mentioned this earlier too as well. So this is where we're talking about if you get a refund, anytime your account has an overpayment on it, it's going to show as a credit balance on your account, and it's going to show as a negative on your statement. So for instance, if you look at your account and you're owing a balance, it's going to be positive. If you ever see a negative amount in your account, that means there's been an overpayment and you are likely going to be issued a refund of some sort. Credit balances, we usually do process those within about 2 to 4 days after the credit is posted onto that account. If you have a US bank account, once again, you can set up direct deposit through Easy Pay, and then the refund can usually take about 1 to 3 business days. This will just depend on the bank ultimately, but that's going to be the quickest way to always get that refund. Check refunds, once again, are mailed out to whatever billing address we have on file. Those can take up to 3 weeks to process, which is why we strongly encourage enrolling in direct deposit, especially if you do have a foreign address or an address that is not located in the US. We're not going to send a check out there. It's going to be easy just to put it directly into your bank account. Students that are making a payment through Flywire can also be refunded through Flywire. This does take quite a bit longer though, so you would want to contact us for more information about this. Generally with a Flywire refund, it can take up to around 10 to 14 days. It's a little bit longer because with these international payments, we have to verify that the funds were actually received and pulled correctly. And so that's why there's a little bit of a longer processing time on that. All right, so we do have a couple of, these are just frequently asked questions that we already have ahead of time for y'all. How do I know which tuition plan to choose? I mentioned this a little bit earlier. So once again, we do have the 2 different types. We have that variable, and then we also have that guaranteed tuition. Guaranteed tuition, once again, it's gonna lock you in for 4 consecutive years into that same tuition rate. Variable rate, once again, that's gonna change yearly. Both of them, there's about $1,000 difference between the 2 currently, but because variable changes each year, you want to make sure about how many years you think you're going to actually attend UT Dallas. That's going to help you make a more informed decision on how much you'll ultimately be paying. And then if you're going to be continuing on after that as well. So can you tell me how much I owe before I'm registered? Not really. We don't want to give you a number amount before you're actually enrolled. Once you're enrolled, then you will get an accurate billing statement on your account after you've actually been enrolled in the classes. You can definitely get that tuition statement online. Current and admin students can go on their UTD Student Center, and it will be fairly accurate. That's going to be the best thing to look at is a tuition statement through your Student Center. But otherwise, wait until you're registered because then you're going to know what your actual costs are. Can I pay tuition in cash? We are a cashless office at this point, so all payments are going to have to be made through that Easy Pay portal, whether that is, or if you're going to do Flywire, you'll do it that way. Do I pay for my classes before my scholarship is posted? You can do this, but once again, let's say if you're waiting for funds to come in, you might want to get an installment plan. You can enroll in the installment plan. That's going to consider your classes paid for at that time once you enroll. You do not have to pay for your classes before a scholarship is posted. If you do, and then we end up posting that onto your account, it's going to be posted as a credit, like I said. And then within about 2 to 4 business days, we would just refund that amount back to your account if you choose to. So no, you do not have to, but you definitely may do so. Why do I have a hold on my account? So you are going to see a lot of holds on your account eventually. Once you start, it's going to be from different academic offices, whether it's our office or advising. Anytime you're going to have a hold from our office, most likely it's going to be some sort of balance related hold, especially if we are getting closer to registration time, for instance. Let's say you still have a balance and we're in your current semester and you still owe money. If we're getting ready to register for fall 2023, you're going to have a hold on your account from our office that will not allow you to register until that prior balance is paid. Other holds that you might see from our office with a past due balance could be related to transcripts and also even your diploma once you've graduated as well. If you do have a hold on your account and you're not sure what it is, definitely feel free to call, email us. We have plenty of people available to answer your questions. We can easily let you know what a hold is, what it means, and how you can get it taken off if you need to have it taken off for any reason. How do I get the student's insurance waived? Once again, you'll want to reach out to the student health center for this. Again, especially if you already have your own insurance and you think it might meet the criteria that the student health center has come up with, then I would definitely reach out to them, let them know what type of insurance you have. Maybe it's equivalent to what the UT system is asking for. Then that's one less charge that you might have for the semester. Can I drop a class after the class has started? Yes, you can. You'll just want to make sure, though, on that calendar, when you're looking at the drop dates, pay attention to those dates because you may only be eligible for a partial refund at that point, depending on when you're actually looking to drop the class. All right, and then so some couple recommended action items here. Choose your tuition plan. Once again, very important. Think about how long you might end up being at UT Dallas. Do you think you're going to be here for 4 years or more, or maybe 2 years less, or even less than 4 years in general? Compare the variable and guaranteed tuition rates. That's going to help you make an informed decision on your finances in the long run. Update your address as soon as possible. This would be important. If you are going to have a US address, I would definitely end up using that one if you are looking to get any sort of check refund. That way we can still do so. Otherwise, especially your diploma as well, you'll want to make sure that's as accurate as possible. Once you graduate, we want to make sure that everything is going to the right place. You want to be really familiar with the academic payment and refund calendar. I know I keep mentioning that probably like almost every other slide. We really want you to make sure that you are looking at that payment calendar. That is going to be a huge resource when you're looking at withdrawing, dropping, any of those things, especially if you have any emergencies that come up. If you establish a US bank account, that's going to be a good idea to do as well. Again, with those refunds, it's going to be really easy to get a refund put in your account if you just have a bank account on file through Easy Pay. Check your UT Dallas email often. I'm sure a lot of people have probably told you that at this point. Most of the departments on campus should most likely be communicating with you through your UT Dallas email, hopefully. But all that information we send to your UT Dallas email. It's an encrypted email. That information is for the student. We stress checking your email. Anything regarding billing, refund, payment due dates, past due balances, even other departments, financial aid, registration. You're going to want to check your UT Dallas email. We're going to be communicating to you a lot through that. And lastly, for Flywire payments to be received by UT Dallas, it's usually about 7 days from the date of initiating that payment. So when you're looking at, for instance, that January 12th date that we mentioned earlier, if you want to make sure you're going to have the funds in time to actually pay by then, you want to make sure that you're initiating the payment probably, I would say, a week ahead of time to account for business days when you're making a Flywire payment. I believe in terms of action items, that is what we have left, and I believe we have a little bit of time if we have any other questions as well.
Thank you so much, Patrick. That was a really informative presentation, and hopefully that answered a lot of questions. Thank you, especially thanks for addressing those frequently asked questions and action items. That's really important, and hopefully has answered questions that our students were about to pop in the chat. But we'd like to open up the Q&A now for everybody to ask away any questions that you may have. That session's over at the top of your screen, the little question thought bubble button. It should be opened momentarily, and do ask away and we'll address them as they come through. I'll read them out and Patrick can answer them. Very generally, actually, before we get started with those student questions, I was thinking during the presentation, a frequent question that we often get on our end is about the nature of the credit hours. So I was wondering if you could weigh in on how that works here in the US, because every country kind of has a different distribution of credit hours and how many credit hours constitute a class and vice versa. You know, So my understanding, and like so I did my undergrad in the United States, very generally a class is 3 credit hours. So, if for an undergraduate taking 5 classes, you're looking at about 15 credit hours. And for a graduate student, you're looking at 9 credit hours taking 3 classes per semester for full-time enrollment. Do you have anything else to weigh in on that, Patrick?
Sure, yes. So yeah, it can be a little bit different. So a lot of times when you're thinking about like, well, how much how much is a class? How many credit hours are they? Some places they may, you may say, oh, it's only 1 credit hour. Traditionally here, so it's going to be 3 credit hours per individual class. We do have other classes that maybe are worth less, maybe like 1 credit hour. Those could be like elective potentially, but typically your 1 class is going to be 3 credit hours. So that might be a little bit different than you're used to. And then also in terms of enrollment, what we consider part-time and full-time, for instance, also depends on what type of program you're in, undergraduate or graduate. So for instance, like if you were an undergraduate student, you're considered half-time if you're at least in 6 hours. If you're in about 9 to 11 hours, we say that's a 3/4 time student. And then 12 hours and up, we'll say that's full-time. Whereas if you're a graduate student, pretty much we're going to say half-time is 5 hours and full-time is 9 hours. So that's going to be about 3 courses, whereas an undergrad, you're taking a lot more per credit hour while still being considered full-time. It really just depends on, I think, the nature of the program a lot of times too, and how rigorous the tuition can be. But yeah, you'll really notice the difference with that is we usually will go by a 3 credit hour instead of just like a 1 credit hour per course. I see we have, so choosing a tuition plan, it looks like in here as well. So yes, you do want to make sure that you are choosing your tuition plan by, I believe, so you have till it's January 2nd, I believe, is for spring. So January 2nd is when you actually have to choose that tuition plan. If you don't choose a tuition plan by January 2nd, we are automatically going to put you in the variable plan. And after that point, that's not going to change. You'll just be in the variable plan. If you were interested in tuition insurance, you have until January 16th. But once you're looking for tuition plan, we're talking January 2nd. And also to add to that, new students who are admitted for spring 2023, you should be able to actually start choosing your tuition plan. We're expected around November 15th. You should be getting information about when to choose that. So November 15th for when you're actually able to start choosing your tuition plan, and then you'll have till January 2nd to actually make that choice. One here, cost of insurance for international students, and is that already listed in the tuition estimate, or will it be billed separately? So that's a good question. I don't know the exact cost on it, but I do know our tuition estimate does give you the option to check off whether or not you are going to get a meal plan or if you are going to get student insurance. So when you log in to your UTT Student Center, you will have the option to check off student insurance, and it will give you that calculation for your tuition plus the insurance as well. Let's see here, max scholarship. So that one that's a little bit tricky. That might be more of a financial aid question potentially, only because $1,000 is going to be the amount that you need to be eligible for the waiver. But in terms of maximum amount, that's going to depend on the department and how much they're awarding, but also how much you're able to receive based on what's called a cost of attendance. So in terms of maximum scholarship or how much you can receive, I would actually reach out to financial aid because they will factor that in to your cost of attendance. So it's kind of like a little bit of a 2-prong question, but financial aid can actually answer that in terms of what maximum scholarship. See, wire transfer payment. If you do need information on that, go ahead and email us. We can send you really detailed information on how to actually initiate that payment. But what you're going to do is you're going to go into your UTD Student Center and you're going to go to the Bursar tile and there's going to be a link for that Flywire, and it's going to take you to the website where it'll actually guide you through making the payment. If you are taking out a loan from Prodigy, this is a very common question that I see. Prodigy historically can take quite a while to actually process those loans and then send the funds over to UT Dallas. A lot of times we do have students that may need to end up taking a short-term loan while they're waiting for those funds to come in. I would say if you are taking a loan from Prodigy, make sure to have your tuition estimate ready for the amount that you're going to need. Get that to them as soon as possible. Also contact financial aid. Financial aid, they may be able to work with you on that payment extension if you let them know ahead of time that you are working with Prodigy. They are the ones who actually will process those loans, so they are well aware of how long that can take, particularly with that lender. And installment plan only for tuition and fees and health insurance. The installment plan is going to pretty much take any charge on your account and put it in there, so you're not going to be able to like separate it. So if your only charges on the account are insurance and tuition, then yes, it's going to go in the installment plan. But if you have a meal plan, it's going to still go into that installment plan as well. You can make an overpayment on the installment plan if you wish. You're not required to, but as long as you're making the minimum payment on it, that's all that will matter on that. Let's see, I'm losing track of the questions here a little bit as they're coming in. All right, the additional charges will be charged per semester. That is correct. So those additional supplemental fees that we showed earlier that are charged by department, those are all by semester. So each time you're getting a bill, we're not going to bill you yearly for any of your charges. It's all going to be based on whatever you're signing up for per semester. There aren't any long-term loans available necessarily that we offer through like Easy Pay, for instance. But if you are getting a loan from a private lender, once again, financial aid will work with most lenders. If you're trying to get a loan from somewhere or from a third party, they will work with those lenders to make sure that they can get the funds in on your account. Applying for financial aid and scholarships, yes. Most of the time, those scholarship applications now are going to be separate, and they're going to be offered by the individual academic departments on campus. So for instance, financial aid does have a web page with the scholarships listed throughout the university, but some of the academic departments will have their own separate scholarship applications, and you'll want to look out for those and apply for them individually. Tuition fee for 12 credit hours, that's going to depend based on what your program is, things like that. So you'll want to do a tuition estimate through that UTD Student Center. That's going to give you the best possible estimate on anything like that. Let's see, insurance, that again is going to be a per semester charge. Same thing with your tuition, housing, and meal plan. And cost of registration payment, is that payment done if I'm relying on educational loan? Once again, tuition estimates are going to be your best friend here until you're actually enrolled. That's going to give you the most accurate statement of what you're going to be paying each semester. We don't know how many students get scholarships also per semester. Ultimately, that comes down to the individual departments and then how much money they have in their endowments for giving out those scholarships as well. If I enroll in a certain class, will my seat in that class be fixed? So I think what they're saying is, will I have a reserved seat, or will it be taken away unless I pay the fee, since January 12th is the last day to pay? So if you don't pay by your payment due date, eventually we will drop students for non-payment. So that's why we say you want to make sure to have some sort of payment arrangement made by that date. So if we're looking at January 12th as your regular payment deadline, you'll want to do either the short-term loan if you only have tuition on there, or you'll want to do the installment plan at that time, because then you could be dropped from the class. So whether you enrolled it or not, if you showed up in class, no, you're not going to have a reserved seat, but if you don't make a payment, you're going to get unenrolled from that class potentially for non-payment. Let's see. And how to decrease my prereqs if I have them in my undergrad, that is a good question. You do want to make sure, as mentioned by Rodolfo, discuss with academic advisor. They're going to answer a lot of those questions for you. They will be able to tell you whether or not those courses are going to be equivalent and transfer over or not and be applicable to your program. If you made a tuition payment of, let's say, $1,000 through Flywire, but the actual tuition fee was $950, will the $50 be refunded to our EasyPay account, or will it be refunded back to our international account outside the US? So it'll be whatever account that you have on file for refunds specifically. So technically, the refund will be issued to EasyPay, but it's going to be to whatever account you specified that you want the refund to go through. So the refund will be initiated through EasyPay, but ultimately it's going to whatever bank account you've chosen. That's where the money will go back into. So debit, credit cards, it's going to be treated as a credit, so it'd still be subject to the 1.9% fee if you're using MasterCard, American Express. We don't take Visa. It would still just be charged as a credit if you use a debit card. So if you were wanting to do something similar to a debit payment, then I would still recommend just doing an e-check. That's where you're just putting your bank account information into EasyPay and it's drawing the funds from your bank account. That's going to be the closest to actually getting a debit payment. Right, let's see. Due date. So our classes first come, first serve basis in payment, and when is the payment due date? So January 12th, that's going to be that date you're looking at if you are not going to be expecting any sort of financial aid. So January 12th is what you're looking at. If you do not have any financial aid, you need to make sure to be in a payment plan or have everything paid by that date. If you're expecting a scholarship of any sort and believe that you are going to be receiving it, your deadline should be January 26th. Definitely download the academic calendar. These dates will be on there. You'll want to make sure to look at those really closely. And can you explain how to do tuition payment as installments? Sure. Yeah, so installment plan, once again, for the installment plan, you're going to go to your UTD Student Center, and then you're going to actually go to the Bursar square. There's going to be a little square that'll say Bursar account on there. You'll click on this square. There's going to be a link that says link to EasyPay. You'll click on that link to EasyPay link, and then it's going to take you to EasyPay where you'll actually just log in with your UTD ID and password. And then from there, you'll have the actual, there'll be a button up there that'll say installment payment plans, and you'll just enroll in the installment plan through there. And it actually guides you through the steps of setting that up until making the first payment. And in terms of student health insurance, I would definitely go ahead and reach out to the Student Health Center in terms of how much coverage you may need, especially if you have insurance already. You can show them what insurance you have. That way they can determine if you actually need to elect for the UTD offered coverage. They'll be able to answer that question in the Student Health Center for in terms of insurance and what type of coverage you're going to need. I would definitely open up a US bank account. It'll probably be more convenient, especially if it takes longer. If you're trying to make international payments, especially with Flywire, for instance, those payments take longer to get here versus if you're doing from a US bank account. I would say go ahead and get one just for that fact alone. It'll be more convenient to draw funds from, and it may be more convenient to get your refund as well. It's not necessary, but I would recommend it. It would definitely be more convenient for you. And are class reservations based on enrollment or are they based on payment? So it's a little bit of both, kind of. So first, you're actually going to get enrolled by your academic advisor. Once you've actually been enrolled, you are in that class. That means the class was not full and you were able to get a seat. So you are in the class. Now, if you don't have your tuition, all of your tuition paid by your payment due date, and you get to the payment due date, it's possible we may drop you then from the class for non-payment. So even if you showed up to class, you could be unenrolled if you didn't pay for it. So that's why it'd be a little bit of a two-pronged question there. So academic advising they register you, we would generate a bill. But if you're registered, you're in the class already. But if you don't make a payment, we can drop you from the class, and it's a very strong possibility that happens. 25% in the first installment, yes, you do have to pay the 25% on the first installment. That is considered the down payment, first payment. Now, the only difference where you may not have to pay that potentially would be if you had a scholarship or financial aid on your account. If you have a scholarship or financial aid on your account, when you go to set up the installment plan, that's going to be factored in and go towards that first payment. So it would essentially be paying part of that first payment for you. Otherwise, yes, you do have to pay the 25% first payment for the installment plan. Beyond the 25% first payment, which is, and then the $25 setup fee, there's no additional interest on that. You may see if you miss a payment, you could get a late payment charge potentially. But on the installment plan, there's no interest that it ends up accruing on the installment plan or anything like that. And then Easy Pay account, is it created automatically? Essentially, you'll already be able to log into Easy Pay, yes, with your UTD ID and password. The only things you'll actually have to do in there is you'll need to go in and put in your payment information. So you'll have to set up your direct deposit information. And then also, if you're wanting to put like a credit card on file or a payment method on file, such as a bank account, you'll have to put those in. But yes, you will have an Easy Pay account already made for you. You'll just have to log in and put in your payment information. Right. If there are any I missed, I know that was quite a bit in like a little short period of time. Let's see. How many credits class does a graduate student take? A little bit of a more advising question. It's going to depend on your program, your workload, but generally half-time, if you're doing part-time, 5 hours would be somewhat normal, 5 to 6, I would say. If you're a full-time student, you're probably going to be taking 3 classes if you're trying to graduate within about 2 years. I received financial aid in fall 2022, but I deferred my admission to spring 2023. Can I have the financial aid in the spring 2023? Double check with financial aid on this. Most likely the answer will be yes, especially if this is a scholarship and you have deferred your admission. Usually those will go ahead and move over. Contact financial aid, just let them know that you did defer. Usually what they'll do is they will move your awards over to whatever semester you are deferring to. All right, and installment plan, once again, that will be through Easy Pay. So the installment plan, you'll go to your UTD Student Center, and then you'll just click on the Bursar square, and then there's going to be a link for Easy Pay, and then you'll sign up for the installment plan there. Are we allowed to pay our semester fee all at once, or is it mandatory to pay in installments? It's not mandatory. You can for sure pay all at once if you wish. We have a lot of students who do that, just would rather be done with it instead of paying monthly. You're not required to do so, but if you can pay all at once, then yes, you definitely can do so. And then once again, in terms of insurance, I would definitely go ahead and still reach out to the Student Health Center in terms of that insurance to make sure that if you have insurance already, you're meeting that requirement. Is the amount paid as installments equal the payment done at whole, or will there be any difference? So let's see. Okay, so I think, so yeah, so when you're looking at the installment plan is based on all charges on the account. So even if you had like a charge on the account, let's say you paid it, the installment plan is still going to include that charge in there. It's just going to factor in any payments you've made as well. So yes, all charges will be on that installment plan. Definitely open up a US bank account, like I said, be more convenient, especially when it comes to refunds as well. Okay. All right. Alrighty. And then once again, installment plan just through Easy Pay. Now, in terms of like deadlines for choosing, you really just want to go by your payment deadline for when you're looking at either doing an installment or the short-term loan. Again, if you're not receiving a scholarship, then you're going to adhere to the January 12th deadline, which is our regular payment deadline. So by January 12th, that's when you're going to need to just make sure that you are paid in full or you are enrolled in either our installment or our short-term loan. All right. Definitely check out the financial aid scholarship page. That's going to have the most up-to-date information. If you go, I would just maybe even Google search UTD financial aid. From their page, they have a link to scholarships. They actually will have a link to departmental scholarships, and then they also have a page just for scholarships for the university in general. Definitely check out the financial aid scholarship pages because they could potentially have scholarships that would qualify you for the waiver. Most of the time, those are going to come specifically from the academic departments, those $1,000 ones. So I would go to financial aid's webpage, look at their scholarship page. If you're not sure on a date for a scholarship, email them and they will be able to let you know when they expect that scholarship to open up. I would say the advantage of a variable tuition plan for students is there's about $1,000 difference between your variable and your guaranteed right now. If you think you're going to be here for less than 4 years, you may see a cost savings by going on the variable, just because historically there's been a little bit of a price difference between variable and guaranteed. At least within the last couple of years. So while there's uncertainty with the variable and it changing, you might save money in the long run if you're only going to be here 2 years versus 4 years. It might help you plan a little bit better just when you look at both different rates. And yes, Orion Student Center, you go and then you'll click on, make sure it's the UTD Student Center. You'll click on that Bursar tile. It'll have a link to Easy Pay, and that's where you'll go and set that installment. The $25 setup fee is already going to be included with that first 25% down payment, first payment. Any difference between paying whole tuition at once versus paying installments? There wouldn't be. So if you're just going to pay all your tuition up front, then you're not going to have any extra charges. If you do the installment, yes, you will have the $25 setup fee when you're making the first payment. So if you do the installment, you'll have an extra $25 setup fee, but if you can pay it all at once, then you might as well just pay it all at once to avoid any extra fees with setting up any sort of plan. And yes, contact your advisor for sure if you're looking for enrolling in particular courses. They're going to be the ones to go ahead and help you out with that and let you know what courses that you might need to do as well. And since most scholarships come from the department itself, could I request a department for a $1,000 scholarship so I can qualify for in-state? So the scholarship requirements, again, those are going to be based and set on guidelines by the department. So they will all the scholarships have their own specific criteria set and dollar amounts that they're going to award. So what you're going to want to have to do is really just go on to that scholarship page that financial aid has and look at the different ones that they offer and look for any of the ones that are $1,000. Otherwise, now you can't request the amount, but they will list the amount usually on their applications. Yes, UTD does offer mental health care services. We actually do have a web page for that as well. You should definitely check it out on the Student Health Center's page. I believe they do have a link for that. So that is a great question. The total fee is $100. If I pay as 4 installments, will the total sum after paying equal 100, or will it be more? So technically, if the total is 100, the only other extra fee you'll have is that $25 setup fee. So that would be the only additional fee in the installment plan, is just the $25. It's possible there might be scholarships available now. Definitely check out the scholarship page. It'll be on the financial aid website. They'll have a link to the scholarship page. Historically, most scholarships end up starting to post in the spring semester for the upcoming academic years. So a lot of times they'll start posting scholarships during the current spring for our upcoming fall. Yep, make sure to contact advisor for anything in terms of class registration and whether courses will transfer. Academic advising is going to be your best resource for that. My goodness. Alrighty, awesome. Okay. Okay, that looks like we've got most of the questions then. And if anyone does have any other questions for sure that weren't covered in this, feel free to reach out. Bursar@utdallas.edu. We can pretty much answer anything by email if need be, if it wasn't covered in this. Even if it was, this will be available to you. They will be posting it on YouTube. I did want to say that I just appreciate everyone showing up. This is my first time actually doing this for our office, and I was really excited to see how many people showed up for this, so I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Patrick, for a really engaging session and then spending so much time answering all of these questions as they poured in. I'm sure our students are very appreciative. We are very appreciative for your collaboration and cooperation on behalf of ICP. So many thanks to you and the rest of the Bursar's office for putting up that very good presentation. We'd also like to thank our student assistant here at ICP, Mohammed Suhail Khan, has been very helpful for the queuing of the presentation, and our assistant director Rodolfo for assembling the queue for on-screen presentations. So thank you to you both for our technical support. Thank you to all of our students for attending. As a reminder, this session will be recorded or has been recorded and will be posted on Instagram, not Instagram, YouTube, on our YouTube channel within the next 48 hours. So do keep a lookout for that. If you know anyone that was not able to watch today, do refer them to YouTube. And if you have any specific questions about your own account, feel free to contact the Bursar, and then feel free to contact ICP with any questions that you have that may not be related to the Bursar and you're wondering who to contact. We're more than happy to direct you in the the right way. I talked last week, if you were at our last information session, about how American higher education is very decentralized. Every office has its own specialization, and there's very little overlap. So, you know, if you ask the Bursar about something with ICP and international orientation, they're going to tell you to come to us, and vice versa. So we're more than happy to help direct you. There will be 7 more, I believe, virtual information sessions in this series. You can find those on the orientation website. The ISA, Indian Student Association, you'll be hearing from them. Friendship Association of Chinese Students and Scholars will be delivering a presentation. Partner organization Big Howdy, the Office of Graduate Education, and then we'll have a session about preparing for life in Dallas. So do stay tuned to these virtual information sessions. And again, they will be posted on our YouTube channel as well. So thank you very much. Thank you again to the Bursars. We hope you have enjoyed this session.